functional wellness practitioner and registered dietitian. And today I'm here to talk to you about a really important concept in wellness. Once you get this concept, it changes everything because it helps you to realize why it's important to do the things from a lifestyle and diet standpoint that you always know you should do, but this gives you your why. So let's get started. This concept is called the triangle of health. And the triangle of health is the basis of it is really epigenetics. So if you've heard that term epigenetics, we're going to dive deep into that today, and it's going to make a lot of sense. So you may have been told you have certain genetics. You're predisposed to high cholesterol or heart disease or type 2 diabetes. It could be any number of things. That you have the MTHFR genetic SNP, which means that you don't methylate as well. Some of those things may sound familiar to you, but I'm here to share with you that if you have been told that your genetics predetermine your future, I've got great news. That's not the whole story. There's a much bigger and more important part of the story. Yes, you've been given certain genetics. We all have. Some of them stronger than others, but the genetics load the gun. You may have heard this before. The genetics load the gun, but what you do, your lifestyle choices, pull the trigger. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's take a look at the triangle of health. Here's the triangle of health. And in the middle, you've got your DNA. You've got your genetics. All right, this is your DNA. That is already predetermined. That's not going to change. But what you do, what you eat, how well you take care of your body, that determines which switches of those genetics turn on and off. So if you are making lifestyle choices that are not healthful, they're not helping you to live a healthy life, then the genetic switches that turn on tend to be the ones that promote inflammation and promote disease. But on the other hand, if you are bathing your genetics through your lifestyle choices in good food, good air, good water, exercise, activity, good stress management, now you've given your genetics a place to flourish, and those switches that tend to promote disease will switch off, and the switches that will promote a healthy life will switch on. So that's what we're going to talk about. You can see your DNA. It is what it is. That doesn't change. But let's take a look at this. Let's start. We've got a mental side of this triangle of health. We've got a physical side, and we've got a biochemical side. Let's start with the mental. And mental is your mindset. It's how you think. It's how you feel, your emotions. It's your spiritual side as well. So let's take some specific examples. Those are things a lot of times we can control. We can control our mindset. We can't control everything that happens to us, but we can control when we wake up today, what messages we're telling ourselves. This is going to be a great day. I've got some things to deal with today that aren't necessarily what I want to deal with, but that doesn't mean the day is going to be a bad day. So that's a mental mindset. It's that choice. It's the choice to see the glass as half full, not half empty. It's the people we choose to surround ourselves with. So if we've got a relationship problem, it's something that we know we need to address from a mental standpoint, an emotional standpoint. What's a good example of that? A good example is just that. If you have a relationship and there's some problems with it, you can choose to not address that and continue to go on the way you're going. But you know how that's been working, right? That's probably not working great for you, and that is affecting you from a genetic standpoint because it's driving more stress, and it's driving dissension, and it's affecting you emotionally, right? And that will affect your genetics. I'm not saying to take a Pollyanna, everything's great, everything's wonderful, if it's not. Just telling yourself it is, that doesn't help either. You don't want to be Cleopatra. Do you know what I mean by that? You don't want to be Cleopatra, the queen of denial, right? So you want to address these things that come up, And then that will help you to be better managing your stress, better managing your emotions, because we know stress causes so many other factors that go on in the body. And we're going to talk about how those are interrelated in just a second. So let's move on to the physical. Physical is activity, exercise. It is structural. Do you have any impingements going on? So that also affects your genetics, right? So physical, here's a great example of physical. If you are exercising regularly, you are most likely more limber, you feel stronger, your lungs have a better capacity to take in oxygen, you release endorphins. So you can see physical does so many different pieces that affect your genetics. They affect the turning on and off of the switches. So another great example is your lymph system. Your lymph system, if you've ever seen those pictures from biology and they show the outline of a body and that shows all the blood vessels, and alongside of all the blood vessels you see all these other vessels, those are your lymph vessels. Well, there's fluid in both of those, right? Your blood vessels and in your lymph. How does the fluid move in your blood vessels? What moves that fluid? What moves that blood? Your heart, right? You've got a pump, and it's a big pump relative to the size of those blood vessels. And that pump pumps that blood all through your body to keep things moving, to deliver nutrients and to pull out waste. Well, your lymph runs alongside of your blood vessels to collect that waste. How does your lymph move? Does it have a pump? No, it doesn't have a pump. The way your lymph moves is by activity. So think about stepping, walking. If you've heard that a mini trampoline, a rebounder is really good for your lymph system, that's why. Because you think that jumping, that's getting that lymph moving through your body. That's the way you pump your lymph through, and your lymph is collecting waste to be excreted. So that's another example of physical. You can see the importance of that, because that not only helps you stay strong. You think about weightlifting. Women, we can hold off osteoporosis. We can keep our bone mass if we do weight-bearing exercise. That's physical. That's impacting how our genetics are responding. So do you see the picture of how these things all come into play, and how our choices to take care of our mental health and emotional health and our spiritual health, our choices to take care of our physical health directly impact how our genes respond. Now I'm going to move on to biochemical. Biochemical is food, water, and air, because all of those things affect the chemistry of our body. So think about our food. The primary purpose of our food is what? The primary purpose of our food is to provide fuel, right? In the form of proteins and carbohydrates and fats. So it provides fuel, but also what else does it provide us with? Vitamins and minerals. And every chemical process in our body, think about that, every chemical process in our body, and there are infinite chemical processes in our body. Everyone requires vitamins and minerals. So if we're not getting them from our diet, biochemical, you can see how that's going to start to throw off our whole system. So diet, very important. A word on diet. If you are eating a diet that is primarily fast food because you're busy, so you just grab fast food a lot, lunch, dinner, maybe a quick breakfast that you grabbed out of the freezer and you put in the microwave, and you hit the ground running. Think of that diet. How many vitamins and minerals are you getting from that diet? If you really think about it, sure, they may fortify it with some folic acid and some other minerals and vitamins, but are those quality vitamins and minerals? If you think about owners in the food industry of huge corporations, are they putting in quality nutrients to feed millions of people? Remember, their bottom line is to make their shareholders happy, and that is based on profit. So no, you are not getting good vitamins or minerals in processed food. They may add it, but it's not quality. Now, compare that to if you have a garden or shop at the farmer's market, or you don't do either of those things, but you eat ample vegetables every day and some fruit every day, and you're eating whole foods, like whole natural foods, like grass-fed meats and wild-caught fatty fish, salmon. So you're eating a diet of those foods compared to these processed fast foods. Are you getting vitamins and minerals? You bet you are. Those are the kind that your body's going to use to fuel all those chemical processes. And then you're also getting the right amounts of proteins and fats and carbs. So biochemical food is really important. As an aside, one man's good food is another man's poison. So if there are food sensitivities involved, that needs to be tweaked. We need to customize that, because if you're constantly eating a food you're sensitive to, what are you doing to your DNA? You are flipping on the switches that are causing an ongoing immune response to a food, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. So you're really driving inflammation, and you're really driving a state of poor health. So that's another topic for another day, but I just wanted to mention that even if it's a really great diet, if it's not agreeing with your system, that you want to customize and make sure that you're getting the right diet for you, not just based on, a general set of guidelines. Okay, food. Now we've talked about that. Water, filtered water, right? You don't want to be taking in all the chemicals from tap water or even bottled water. A lot of that isn't regulated, so you're getting truly tap water in plastic bottles. So filtered water, really important. And then fresh air, right? Those are the things biochemically that have an impact. Other things are supplements and medications, some of those for the better and some of those for the worse. But let's take a look at not only do these impact us from an individual standpoint, but these physical impacts the biochemical. Biochemical impacts the mental and emotional and spiritual. That impacts the physical, and I'm going to show you how. Not only that, but biochemical impacts physical, physical impacts mental, emotional, and spiritual, mental, emotional, and spiritual impacts biochemical. So they all work together to impact your DNA. What's a good example of that? Great example. Let's talk about from a biochemical standpoint. You have a magnesium deficiency and you don't know it. You ever get those leg cramps and someone says, oh, you should take some magnesium, or you're stiff? Well, right, because magnesium, in the research, you'll see anywhere from 400 functions to 800 functions, and maybe more that we don't know about. That's how many functions or processes in the body that magnesium is used for. It's unbelievable. So let's just take that one little nutrient, magnesium. If you're deficient in magnesium, so that's biochemical. You're going to start to have physical symptoms. You might get a stiff neck. You might get leg cramps. You might feel achy all over. You won't be sleeping as well. You may not be as regular going to the bathroom. Let's go back to that achiness. Are you going to want to be, so with that achiness, are you going to want to work out and have good, and be active and exercise regularly? No, not likely. So you're not exercising regularly because you know what? You hurt. You don't want to go exercise. You hurt and you're tired and you're not sleeping well. Magnesium deficiency, so you're not exercising. Now, are you releasing those endorphins that you would be releasing otherwise? Are you getting those toxins out of your body? We talked about getting the lymph moving. No. So you're not exercising. How does that affect you mentally and emotionally? It affects you because you're not feeling as well. So now you're achy, you're sore, you're tired. You may not be going regularly to the bathroom, and you're not exercising, and now you just feel lousy, right? Do you see how they all affect each other? So then instead of making dinner because you're tired and you're achy and you haven't exercised, you just stop by some kind of burger place and you pick up fast food, and it perpetuates your magnesium deficiency. You see how that all works? And then it affects your DNA. So this is how the triangle of health works. This is epigenetics. Genetics, right? The word genetics is your DNA. Epi is a prefix that means around or on or above or over. So let's take above, as that epigenetics, epi meaning above genetics or around genetics, these things, epigenetics. When you change these things, you start to change how this acts and how your health responds now in the short term and in the long run. So this gives you an idea of the importance of what you eat and what you drink and how active you are and your thoughts, your intentionality. And this helps you to really nail down your why, because you want to feel well and you want to be healthy and you want to turn off some of those switches, right? Some of those switches that lead to disease. So another great example is you have a family history of high cholesterol, and you want to make sure that your heart is healthy and your cholesterol is starting to creep up. So you're put on a statin medicine, right? So you're taking the statin. But unknown to you, now that statin, right, is to change the biochemistry that will artificially go in and override your biochemistry. There's a reason your cholesterol is high. It's not only this. There are other things going on. Does this play a role? Absolutely. Absolutely. If your family history has genetics, of course, that's real. But something else is going on, right? So instead of getting to what else is going on, we artificially override it with the statin and we just bring down that cholesterol. Unknown to you, statin medicines are known to deplete certain nutrients. One in particular, coenzyme Q10. CoQ10 is necessary for heart health. So now we've changed our biochemistry to bring down our cholesterol without finding out other reasons and other factors involved with why it's high in addition to genetics. And now physically, we don't know it, but we've increased our risk for heart disease because we don't know now that we're deficient in coenzyme Q10, right? So these are things that to look at a whole picture of health, we want to get to the roots of what's going on. And then if you still need the statin, you're doing it based on knowledge and understanding and part of a bigger plan to support your genetics and to bring out the best health. So I hope you've learned a lot today about how your daily decisions make such an important impact on your health. If you have any questions, drop them below and I will be back to talk with you soon. Thanks for joining me today.